how I do it, but I
Right.
log in somehow.
You say it's between 15.1 and 16.3. Somewhere around that range.
It tastes more like 16.
This is virtual tasting
Pre-virtual.
antics going on here.
Ooh, open for me.
Yeah, I saw that with the bourbon rolls in too.
No, it's
No top, right?
right.
Oh, this is cab. This is not the rosé.
And then-
This is just cab. That's a different.
Oh my god, I know what I did.
Okay.
I went live on mine. On yours.
Yeah,
It's 2-4.
it's black on. Oh, there it is.
2.
No, it's
Now I
I
get the
went
screen.
live on my Instagram.
Oh yeah, I just waved. That was like a 45 seconds was it?
Yeah.
If it's been 45 seconds, we mess up, just go off.
I like to watch any kids like I'm like sitting weird. I'm like zippers or something.
So either there, you can set the
Oh,
blind.
good. Mine has mobile.
46, 54, 57, 43, and then the notes they get.
Yeah, it's about 50-50.
Say hi
That's
to
what I always
Julie.
say about the BS
Wow,
guys.
Say hi to Julie.
Hi
It's
Julie.
almost half and half.
Hi Jules.
Christina.
Hi Christina.
Kent.
Hi Ken. Hi everybody.
Caroline.
What's up, guys?
Caroline.
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 Marcus. Andrea. People on.
Hi everybody. We're just getting set up here, so hold tight. We're gonna get started in a few minutes.
Someone said, Mossy.
Get a glass of wine.
Yeah, we have a lot of wines to go over today. So,
Cheers to all.
oh, whoa.
You bring the caps off here.
Oh yeah, let me grab it. I got it.
This is a good time to wine taste. So is 10 a.m.
Whatever, if it's
Somebody asked me, hey, what time is it on? Tuesday? Like 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh,
You know, I'm
nice.
actually just gonna hold this. It's kind of out of it. I'll put it on there.
I like that panda match to my shirt.
Hey, Gus.
Was that about-
Tim says he wants the Lopez Ranch back.
Are we doing the cab too?
I bet he does. Yeah. I'm bottling that next year.
That's the last of the
Next
last, isn't it?
Yes.
The last of
Is that
the
Cucamonga?
best of the best.
Yeah.
Did you already
Yeah, they dabble with that.
No, I need some.
The last of it.
Galliano.
And there's a big history on that.
I'll drink out of the bottle.
perfect?
Soon it might be houses, right?
3 minutes.
7.
Yeah.
3 minutes. 3 minutes in
You
counting.
get the history.
I'm gonna run for my phone over here.
Wishes and Dreamers Hospital Dog
Yeah.
says hello.
Hello. What was up?
Wishers and Dreamers Hospital Dog.
No, no,
Oh, hi.
Okay. They were here yesterday.
I won't repeat that, but thank you. Hi. Wishers.
They had a lovely visit yesterday.
Was it Wishers?
Arizona
Wishers and
people.
Dreamers Hospital Dog.
Arizona people.
hey,
We love Arizona
Wishers
people.
and Dreamers Hospital doll gowns. Thanks for.
How hot is it in Arizona? Arizona people? 105?
Lisa is enjoying a glass of our white cab
Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
when she saw the post.
We will review that again on another virtual tasting, probably. All right.
Let's say we'll get started here.
2 minutes. Yeah, we have about 2 minutes, and we'll get started. Trust me, I want to drink as much as you all.
I've brought my designated driver over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're on your own.
Does a designated driver have to be just slightly less drunk?
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be bad.
Yeah.
It'll be bad.
Hi, Kirk.
Hey, Kirk.
Kirk's awesome.
Kirk is awesome.
Didn't Gus request a dump bucket this time? Forgot.
Yeah, did they say that?
No, we really did.
Seriously.
Or else Deanna will have to drive them home.
Last time.
Yeah, I was just, having fun.
All right. Guys ready?
Whenever you are.
All right. 3, 2.
Julie's starting without you.
It's just
All right, hi everybody. We're starting our virtual tasting today. We have some new faces here, and I'm just going to introduce them really quick. Mossy, one of our crowd favorite servers from the tasting room, is here. Yay, Mossy! I feel like it's a talk show. Like, hey, I'm like Jerry Springer. And of course, our famous Mick Wilson is here today. And you know our favorite wine-loving winemaker Gus over here.
Yay.
Back for another one. We haven't punished you enough. So we're here today. We're going to be going over quite a few wines. So a lot of you that have these wines are probably wine club members because they are in our wonderful July shipment that came out, and we're going to talk about the free gift in a little bit as well. But we do also have a couple new wines, so hang on tight. You could follow this with us live, or you could chime in later once you get these wines at a different time, or just drink any wine you want. It has to be Wilson Creek wine, but you could drink White Cab or whatever. Yeah, just join us for the fun. All right, you guys ready to start?
Let's do it.
All right, so we are going to start with one of my favorites, and this is a Cabernet Dry Rosé, and it's perfect for a hot day like this. So I'm the official pourer. I'll get everybody started here.
The obvious question on this for Gus is, how did you get a rosé from a red Cabernet grape?
Yeah, this rosé was actually, we pressed it out of the skins, and we did it a little bit more pressure than we did with the white Cabernet, and as a result, you do get a little bit more color extracted. Another method of making this is actually drawing off some of the fermenting wine from the Cabernet, but that's not what we did here. We actually had some Cabernet. We pressed it like we did with the white Cabernet, but a little bit more firmly to get a little bit more of the skin contact with it. So, and it was in the press probably a total of maybe a few hours, and so you got the nice Cabernet characteristics to it. And we fermented it on the dry side. The idea here is just to showcase another way of exploring Cabernet. We've got it in sparkling form. We've got it in the white form, in the red form, and now we have it in a rosé form.
Awesome.
Moxie, what do you taste?
So I'm a huge fan of rosés. Anybody that's been to one of my bars knows my favorite. It's like my welcome drink. Everybody gets a little bit of rosé. Try that; it's really good. And I'm usually a big fan of drier rosés. And seeing some of the notes on this and trying this one, it definitely hits that criteria. So a lot of people think that when they're being poured a rosé, the mind goes back to like that whole white Zinfandel or white Merlot concept, and actually it's not always the case that way. You know, I've found that some traditional French style rosés that I've had are actually along the lines of being drier. The original sugar being a lot less, and this is just like that. So I love this one.
Great.
Which, because it's drier and it has that mouth-watering acidity, is great with food. We had some friends over the other day, we barbecued, and I wondered what wine to bring out first. We had the salads and the cheese and the appetizers and stuff, and I brought out a rosé, not this one because it wasn't released yet. And people just love that because it's, as you said, it's a good welcoming drink. It's a good palate cleanser. It's so refreshing. And then of course you go into the other wines like Chardonnay to start out. You go into a red wine, and for dessert you bring out the ports and cherries. You never have just one wine. I did that on my honeymoon in Italy. We asked one time, "What do you pair this food with?" And they looked at me like I'm silly. What wines do you pair the food with? You start with this, then go to this, then this. The Italians know how to do it. We're learning.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely.
I think a rosés for me as a whole really hit that marker of when it gets warmer for me. It's definitely every wine has a situation for me, and I think as it gets hotter, I want some white wines with certain things, but when I want some of that reminiscence of a red wine, but it's a little hot, and I still want something refreshing, a rosé could really hit that. And I think this really hit it because you get a lot of fruit in this. It's dry, but it's sweet from the fruit, but not sugar sweet like a sweet wine would be, like our white Cabernet.
And you don't always have to pair this with actual food. People come up and ask, what kind of food should I pair this wine with? Well, people are getting more and more creative now with what they're doing. You can do some sorts of candies, you can do chips, popcorn is really good with this.
Yeah.
I know Gus loves pizza with a lot of the wines. But even like light salads, some light foods with the rosés, be perfect.
Just as you say, on its own.
On its own?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Boy, the strawberry in here is just feels
I
like
was-
this little slice of strawberry right in the side.
Almost like a strawberry starburst, almost on the nose.
Just awesome.
It's definitely different than any rosé I've had, so it's really good and unique, and that's what we do here at Wilson Creek. Different,
Good and
innovative, unique
Good and
things.
unique.
Yeah.
This will be a crowd pleaser. This is the operative word, the technical word would be yummy.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fruit.
That's technical.
Yeah.
Technical.
It's really, really pleasing wine. Serve it super cold.
Yeah, super cold would be great. Now this really hits a niche in our tasting room as well because we have had, like Gus was saying, we have a dry sparkling rosé, which we've had for a long time. The white Cabernet technically is a rosé, but we made it into more of a white wine. And then we have now this rosé that's a little more depth in flavor and color, but dry. So we have it all. It's awesome. This definitely fills kind of our portfolio a little bit more. All right. Any questions so far from all of you out there on the new rosé?
Say hi to Barb.
Hi, Barb. Stay safe in Florida. This wine is available to the public now, so we released it about 2 weeks ago, and anybody can get it. You can buy it online. You don't have to be a wine club member for this specific wine. The next few we have right now are exclusive to wine club members, but this one is available to all, and it tastes great right now.
Yeah,
So
it's ready to go.
get it while it's cold.
Great summer wine.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah.
Party foul.
I think duck buckets are against my religion, so I'm gonna stay away from
Oh, I didn't see it. Oops.
Yes.
Oops.
All right.
Yeah, I know. I gotta drink it.
The next wine, this is one of the 4 wines that we have released in the month of July for our wine club members only. Some of these will become available to everybody out there in August, but for right now, these are wine club exclusives and part of our July shipment. And the first is a really cool white wine blend that Gus is going to tell us all about, and it's called Sunset Serenade. It looks like summer, so it's and it looks like the sunset. So, Gus, you want to talk about the Sunset Serenade
I would like to.
and how it came to be?
Yes,
Shoot, Sarah.
I will serenade you.
There you
exactly.
go.
We're just having fun in the cellar, and we were playing around with just some concepts. Chardonnay, of course, that comes from a vineyard, has a very distinct character to it. But we had some nice Gewürztraminer, but we decided to ferment that dry. And but the neat thing about Gewürztraminers is that the grape itself is quite fruity. It's very distinct. Even if you ferment all the sugar out, the fruitiness sort of remains. And then it adds a certain level or dimension to this wine that I think is kind of interesting. It starts off very Chardonnay-like, but the finish and a lot of the flavors on the end is that fruitiness that's typical of Gewürztraminer. You also have a lot of that Gewürztraminer-like nose to it, so when you're smelling this, a lot of that fruitiness from that particular grape also shows itself well. So this is a kind of interesting wine. It goes one way and it develops another way in your palate.
Great. Yeah. So, Masi, when you've been pouring this for a little bit for our wine club members, how are you describing this wine to our members as they take it? Because it's a different wine.
It's almost half and half Gewürztraminer and Chardonnay. So, Gus said it perfectly. It starts off one way and will finish off another way in a sense, in my opinion, where the Chardonnay aspect I pick up a lot on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're actually tasting on the finish, I almost get like a dry Gewürztraminer characteristic where you don't have the sugar content that the Gewürztraminer will have, but like the lychee fruit characters and tropical fruit characters that the Gewürztraminer has, it really stands out to this. So another very light, easy drinking white wine. And I've had just this last weekend people asking what you can pair with, and one of the members came back and said they did it with a very buttery popcorn, and they threw a little bit of tahini on there as well, and they said it was a perfect wine for that.
I think one of the reasons is the Chardonnay, which is half of this wine, was in oak for a while, wasn't it?
Yes. a little bit.
So you get that oak,
Yeah.
that oak buttery.
And you can pick
taste
that up
from
on the nose
Chardonnay.
right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what oak.
Buttered
This
over
goes
butter.
well with like
Buttery oak,
takeout.
And pizza, takeout, pizza.
Takeout,
Yeah. Everything goes with takeout here, by the way. Yeah. So, Mick, what do you get on this one here?
I love Gewürztraminer. It's got that spicy note to it.
Yeah.
And when we did our wine cruise up the Rhine, we stopped in Alsace, and Gewürztraminer is one of the key grapes there, and just beautiful. They ferment it dry like this. They ferment it sweet. They do dessert wine out of it. But the French know how to do Gewürztraminer.
It's the hardest one to say and spell.
Gewürztraminer. Yeah.
I don't think I could spell that if you put a gun to my head. Gewürztraminer.
And it was a gateway wine for me. I wine tasted when I first turned 21. It's my first drink of alcohol in my life.
Yeah.
We went to Santa Barbara, and I went to a little place there and tasted my first wine, which was a Gewürztraminer, and just absolutely fell in love with it. It's just a great grape with, as you mentioned, lychee fruit, that spiciness to it. you can almost, if you're doing a blind tasting, you hope that they're going to give you a Gewürztraminer for a test because it's easy to pick out because of that spiciness, that tropical notes.
Yeah.
And even when you, I've gone as far as having a dry Gewürztraminer, and then like a late harvest where the residual sugar changes drastically. They will taste differently, but there's key characteristics that will stand out in every single one of them. That's kind of cool if you
It
ever get a
brings it
chance to
up.
do like a side by side. You can always pick up those key characteristics.
Yeah.
That's with all wines. I mean, Cabernet Rosé, the white cab we have, there's certain characteristics that always stand out with that varietal.
And what's fun about this, you have the Chardonnay and the Gewürztraminer, and sometimes wines fight each other. This has a synergetic effect where the 1 + 1 = 3, and they both really elevate each other, I think, and blend well together. It's a beautiful wine.
I think a lot of people, to Masi's point, have are synonymous with like grapes like Riesling and Gewürztraminer, if you've heard of it, are always sweet. And so those are always misnomers. I know with the Riesling, we make a sweet Riesling, but also in different parts of the world or even in the United States, we make it dry, so it's not sweet. And Gewürztraminer is like that, definitely in this one. So it's a lot of times sweet, like you said, but it does really dry well as a dry wine as well. The Chardonnay also has, this linear acidity to it, and Gewürztraminer doesn't always have that acidity to it. It's kind of misses on the acidity. So I think that's why they balance well. It kind of the Chardonnay holds it tight, where the Gewürztraminer gives it those aromatics and that lychee aromatics that you guys are talking about.
Well said.
Yeah. That tropical lychee thing is
Yeah.
perfect for the summer. I think I've been saying perfect for the summer a lot of times because I'm hot and thirsty right
Imagine
now.
like my nieces, those little candies, little high chews.
Yeah.
They have lychee flavor.
Oh, yeah.
So like on the finish, that's what I pick up. Is like
Nice.
little candy.
Perfect.
Nice.
Tropical. All right.
This will be another crowd pleaser. Really accessible, good wine, will pair well with food, but good on its own.
But a crowd that is socially distant properly,
6 feet.
and yes, that would be a good thing, yes.
1 bottle per person
Right.
is the requirement
And
that
in
Newsom
groups
is
no more
requiring
than
now.
6.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have an interesting transition line. If any of you have questions, please shoot them over. We have our Natalie, our assistant over here, helping us kind of field the questions. So we're more than happy to answer questions. Even if you want to ask them about the Wilsons, because we do have a Wilson here, you could ask some personal family questions. Yeah, don't ask Mossy personal questions, please. He's under contract, so no. But ask us any questions, and we're happy to answer them along the way. All right. All right. So we're off to an interesting wine. This is one of the July shipment wines as well. It's technically a red wine, so it's a red sparkling wine, and it's one of the Explorer Series wines, if you've had it before, that we've done before. And we partnered with a sparkling wine house. This is the second vintage that we've done this in Spain. So this is a sparkling Monastrell. Some of you know this grape, also known as Mourvedre. And it's in a cool design bottle. Wendy, great job.
We have nicknames for some of these grapes, like when you were saying Gewürztraminer,
Yeah.
we call it Girls Are Meaner.
Oh, that's a good way.
Yeah. And
Oh, you just got a lot of people texting in, getting mad at that one.
Mourvedre is Move Over Dear.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Remember? Yeah.
Yep. That's a Rosie. I think she
Yeah,
came up with
right.
that one. It's also called this grape in parts of California and Australia is Mataro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mataro,
Oh.
yeah.
So Monastrell is a Spanish clone for
grape.
Mourvedre, correct?
Just different.
Yeah.
And there are a few varieties that are like that, right? I mean, some parts of the world they call one thing, and it's just a different clone.
Exactly.
You know, so Mourvedre and Monastrell.
Syrah, Shiraz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some viewers might remember the sparkling Shiraz we did years ago that was deep,
Yeah.
ruby red, and
Yeah.
so rich, and that was so good. That was the Methode Champenois, the
Yeah.
second fermentation of the bottle. This is Charmat, which is done in the tank, which gives, I think, a more lively flavor to it, just different. But this wine is
It's really nice. I like the tannins on it. It's really firm and yet soft, well integrated.
So this is another summer wine. I know I've been really redundant on that market, but this is a red wine that is chilled, sparkling, fun, full-side red wine.
So there's
Yeah.
a question about what glasses that we recommend. I normally use my just regular glasses, but if you have reading glasses, they would come in handy to read the back of the label. but sunglasses if you're outside are some of the glasses that I recommend. But when you pour this wine, I would say pour it into a sparkling wine glass, right?
Yeah, you can do a flute. I think you can do both because it's a red wine.
But if you really like the wine, a big thing like this would be just about right, and then you go maybe a half an inch from the top, and you got to drink it before it gets warm.
So,
This wine would taste good in a Dixie cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a fun wine.
But with the glass question too, a flute is designed. So if you're familiar with a sparkling flute, it's designed to capture the bubbles in it. So anything with bubbles will just have those bubbles kind of playing off the sides of the glasses. That's why it's narrow. So I think you could do a flute as well.
A bassoon if you have if you want a lot. A bassoon, French horn if you're having it with, but a flute normally.
The wine's kicking in already.
We speaking of glassware, I don't know if the guests would be interested in this, the viewers, we had a class we did with Riedel Stemware where they did a varietal specific tasting, where they had a Zinfandel glass made for Zin, a Chardonnay glass made for Chardonnay, sparkling wine glass made for sparkling wines. And I was a little bit skeptical going into it, like, does glassware make that much difference? And it did. I was blown away. So if anyone's interested in bringing Riedel back to Wilson Creek and doing that, that'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be fun. So we had questions about the sparkling wine, what it tastes like. So we haven't even got into that yet. There's a lot of fruit in this, and just as a kind of headliner before we get into the sweetness and things, the partner in Spain that we partnered, or the winery that we partnered with, is actually on the east coast of Spain in a small town called Alicante, which is on the Mediterranean Sea, and gets a lot of sun. So just like Temecula, it's really hot and dry in the summer, but gets this ocean breeze like we do from Oceanside, but they get it from the Mediterranean Sea. So you get a lot of fruit in this. And this is fermented, not super sweet, but it has fruitiness and a slight hint of sweetness on it, in my opinion.
What would you guys pair with this?
So
A second glass?
the biggest thing with me when I taste wine, for some reason, I always tell the people that I come to my bar as well, wine is subjective. I can describe a wine and talk about lavender characteristics or tobacco or whatever, it might be leather, but when people make the connection, it's almost like a childhood memory they have. That they like, okay, you know what? Well, I tasted lychee once, something like that. With me, I remember having cheesecake once during Thanksgiving, and it was this cranberry sauce that was on top of it. So my mind just keeps going back to this like cranberry sauce type of taste to it.
Like a sweet cranberry?
Sweet cranberry.
Out of the can?
Actually, it was out of the can.
With the ribs, I love that. You know, when they pop it right
Yeah,
out
so
and
to
you
pair,
slice it.
But like a glazed fruit. Like
Yeah,
that, like
absolutely,
a red fruit.
absolutely.
I think that's perfect.
With the dessert.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cheesecake would be my top choice. I feel like a red velvet cupcake would be perfect with this one as well. That'd be fun.
I can even see this on the first part of going with a salad with some cranberries in it,
Oh, yeah,
some dried
cranberries,
red
yeah.
berries in it, with some nice acidic dressing would taste great with this.
I think this would go out really good with takeout food.
Yeah, I think it as well
pizza.
take out and summertime. I think this is a summer wine and it's good with takeout. Yeah. I think the cranberry is a great note. Sometimes with wines compared to cranberry, you get more of a tart cranberry, but this is more of like a really ripe cranberry, like with the sweetness that you got from that memory. I think it's really good.
But I get like berries, blackberry, black currant, I think, cassis.
Yeah. But very ripe.
And it's very rich, but not overly rich.
Yeah.
Very, very accessible.
It's a fun wine. I mean,
Very
Such a
fun
sweetness
wine.
to
Red,
it.
it's
Definitely
sparkling.
touch of sweetness to it.
And it's made in the style that we make all our sparkling wines, so it's really familiar, to us. But it's a different grape and a different style, and it just brings a whole new, different adventure to wine club members specifically. But hopefully somebody can get some of this. But we made this specifically for this great July shipment, so it's an exciting one. All right, is everybody ready for some reds?
Oh yeah. It's a silly question.
Is anybody typing in? Any questions?
The pairing, right?
Yeah, so you talked about your memory, and we
Yeah.
talked about pairings on this, so I think we got it covered. Are there any other questions out there before we move on? All right.
Pair it with a hot tub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or more popcorn.
Popcorn.
Exactly.
Pair it with
Some tiny
vacation.
on there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Pairs well with quarantine. Okay. So we're gonna go to our reds. This is our first red, and again, this is in the July shipment. I'm gonna butcher this because I'm so self-conscious about how
Milan.
Milan Manor. Okay.
Not Milan, Milan.
Milan Manor is the street that Mick and Bill and Libby grew up on in South Pasadena. So this is a special wine in commemorating the 20th anniversary that we're celebrating this year, and a lot of other stuff, but this is in the July shipment, and it's a fun, huge blend of different grapes that Gus is going to talk about, but this is one of my favorites. I've been drinking this pretty often lately. I'm embarrassed to say how much.
How do you make this?
Well, good question. So during our wine talks, we were trying to come up with an idea of how to sort of honor Rosie and Jerry, and also to sort of commemorate our 20th anniversary. And so that was sort of the inspiration. So this is actually a blend of a bunch of small lots of wine that we had at the winery. Little ends and pieces that were still good, but we didn't have enough of to do anything really interesting with. So we put it together for this particular wine, just to, I guess, mostly to honor Rosie and her ability to put together a nice stew for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So something like this. So it's actually a blend of quite a bit of things. Malbec, Cap Franc, Cinsault, Tannat, etc. So it's quite interesting. I think it really showcases what Temecula has to offer.
A little bit of background on Milan Manor. We were in South Pasadena because there wasn't any youth place going on. There wasn't anything for the young people. The city was about 25,000 people. Our house, and largely because of Rosie and Jerry, became the hospitality center. It was the gathering place. It became the party place in the area. And all the youth would hang out there. We would throw parties. My parents would throw parties all the time. And it was just a lot of fun. It was a place also when people didn't have a family for the holidays, that they would always come over to the Wilson house, to the Milan Manor for Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter. I don't recall of a holiday meal that was just our family, because it was always open doors. It was always anyone who needs a family would just come.
And that's kind of, I mean, that's exactly what we do here. It's,
Yeah.
it's an expansion of that.
Someone who went to my sister Libby's reunion that they had here at the winery commented, "Hey, Wilson's, you're doing here what you were doing in South Pasadena,
That's really cool.
just on a bigger scale."
Good.
And I think a lot of that is Rosie and Jerry's, their warmth, their hospitality. Bill, Libby, and I are trained on how to throw parties. We've had a lot of experience in doing that. But we really became the iconic house in South Pasadena where people would just gather, and it was a lot of fun.
If you look at that label close enough, you can see beer cans in the window of the label.
Yeah. Today we probably wouldn't be throwing parties like we did back
Like
then.
you didn't clean the lawn
Yeah.
enough. Yeah.
And it's fun, hearing about the small lots, because Rosie, she used to be, she had her own cooking show, and she was a great cook. She taught home economics and for middle school kids, but she would make these soups, or these casseroles, as we say from Minnesota, and she would take those and just throw everything in there, and she would cook it. And we don't ask how she made it. Just when it came out, it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good every time. So this reminds me a little bit about how Rosie cooked. So one soup we called refrigerator soup, because she would just grab everything and throw it in, and she just nailed it every time. Yeah.
So what's been your response at the bar?
So I like this one personally. Those come in that want a more full body. They ask for a full body, or like a more tannic, earthy or red wine.
This has tannins. They're integrated, but they're starting to soften up. So this shows that it has some ability for aging.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that's what I've said.
Yeah.
And I tell people that if they like this one now, just wait 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. It's going to get even better. Some of the wines will have lower tannins, and they'll have more rich berry fruit characters that stand out and pop out at the beginning. And this one, for those who are coming down and have tasted wines from all over the world, this is the one that I'm able to actually pour for them, and they're like, "This is going to be a great wine. It's good now. It's going to be even better a few months
I agree.
down the line."
I agree.
And yeah.
For those of you who are starting off to be red wine drinkers, the wine I recommend would be the Cabernet Zinfandel, the Cab Zin blend that we have. That would be, I think, a really good starter for those who are starting off with red wine. This one is a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more elevated because of the structure of the tannins. But this is a very fine wine for those who I think are looking for that structure. But if you're starting off with reds, I think the Cab Zin that we have is an ideal start.
That is definitely our gateway into the red wines. I always ask people if I have to jump behind the bar if it's really bad. How do you drink your coffee? And I've developed my taste in the way I drink coffee over the years. When I was starting college, it was like a lot of cream and sugar, and now I drink it like mud. So my palate has really developed, and not that it has to go that direction, but I really am prideful at the fact that we have wine at Wilson Creek Winery that hits that whole journey from a sweet sparkling wine all the way to a petite Syrah on the other spectrum, and all along the way. And not every winery does that. So I think that's really cool.
And people with more taste buds per square inch are called super tasters, and they need more of that sugar, the cream of sugar in their coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And if you have to do that in your coffee, that means you have more taste buds. And sometimes red wine drinkers look down at white wine drinkers and say, "Oh, you sweet wine people, someday you'll get into the club." And that's not the case, because people have different palates that are geared for different wines. So people like the wines they like because of the genetics, because of the palate. But it's also good on that continuum to taste outside of your comfort zone. What I like about this wine, and Gus, you helped me with this a while ago. You said there's a difference between a condiment wine and a cocktail wine. A cocktail, you were telling, I love this, I've used it so many times. A cocktail you don't pair with food. You don't take a cocktail and think, what's this going to go with in part of the course? You drink it on its own. A condiment, you don't take mustard or ketchup and eat it on its own. It's meant to pair with food. But I think this right here is a wine that would be a condiment wine that would go great with food. It's got that acidity that would pair well. It's got the tannins that would go great with any kind of fat in a steak or ribeye.
Exactly.
This is a great foodie wine.
I think I like the fact there's some countries like Greece and in Spain that they just say red wine on the label, and you just kind of know what might be in there because of what grows in their area, like a field blend, you know? And I kind of like the mystique of this one, that I know what grows in Temecula, I know what grows on our farm, and it's getting thrown into this really cool wine, and I don't even care how much of what is in it. You know, it just adds all this, and it just represents Temecula, and it represents our winery in a real different way.
Well, that's our winemaking as well. I mean, when people come and they say that they love blends, my response always is, in my opinion, a blend is the winemaker's way of using their own imagination.
Yeah.
And there's certain characteristics from other varietals that they know that will come out and be able to actually, it's like an artist, right?
Yeah.
Drawing, and you're creating something, or a chef, putting something together, and this is what you want it to come out like. And here you have something like this wine.
Like a little pinch of this, a little pinch of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
5% of this, 3% of that.
Rosie's casserole.
Yeah, Rosie's casserole.
Before you know it.
And on that, I just want to do a quick little 15-second commercial here. We do have, for wine club members, this is in your shipment. This is called the Wilson Creek Story, and this will describe the whole Milan Avenue, the house on Milan Avenue story. And if you're not a wine club member, this is on sale on Amazon and also at the winery. It's a coffee table book, has a ton of pictures. It describes how Rosie and Jerry met. It describes the story of how we eventually moved to Minnesota and South Pasadena and started the winery. Opened up in 2000 and some of the challenges, but it's a fun book. Hope you enjoy it. But for Wine Club, if you want this signed, I will be here. I'm the author. I'll be here Saturday between 11 and 1 o'clock this upcoming Saturday. And if you want to bring your copy, I'll sign it. And we'll try to get some other dates where we can have Rosie and Jerry there as well signing. So you can have 3 signatures, or other members of the family come and sign it as well. The Wilson Creek Story.
And just a little add-on plug. Mossy's on page 178 in that book.
Oh, okay. Somebody asked.
That's a joke, yeah. But,
wow. Yeah, 178, guys.
Yeah, Mitch is going to be doing a signing here this weekend from 11 to 1 o'clock on Saturday. And so if you have a book which came with your July shipment, this is the awesome gift that you got for free with your July shipment. Mick's going to be here signing the book, so come. We don't know where he's going to be on property yet.
Somewhere out there.
11 to 1, probably in front of the tasting room. So come early, and he'll be signing the book, which is amazing.
And if you don't have one, you can get one here. We'll sign it as a gift. If you want to send it to someone else, that's awesome.
Perfect.
It was fun to do though, and the whole purpose of the book was to honor Rosie and Jerry and honor their legacy and their heart, and I think they really are the heartbeat of this family and the winery.
For sure.
Yeah.
And how are Rosie and Jerry doing? Everybody probably
Jerry's
wants to know.
healthy and he's getting stronger every day. Rosie's super. She's so feisty. They're
Still
both,
feisty.
They're still feisty. Oh, yeah, that's Rosie. They're both doing great.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Thank you for that. All right. What notes did you get? I don't think we hit, but I get cranberry in this. And just a couple fruit notes before we kind of go to the next one. What do you get on this, Milan?
Spices and herbs.
Yeah.
Get a bit, actually some currant, some coriander. Actually, we use a lot of coriander at home.
That's
So,
nice. Yeah, there you go.
I'm a huge coriander fan, so I actually pick up some coriander notes on this. And right on the end of the nose, I get a little bit of fennel even.
Oh, good.
Almost like a black
So-
licorice kind of thing.
yeah.
I actually like that a lot. I'm a huge black licorice fan.
Yeah, good.
So always look for that.
I think this, a lot of our wines, because there's a lot of demand for our wines, sometimes release a little early and they're not ready. This one was like ready right from the go.
Yeah.
And I liked it right when we released it.
Yeah,
And yet, to Gus's point, it'll age well too.
Yeah.
they will.
Yeah, because it has those nice tannins.
Will it pair well with pizza and takeout?
I think so,
Pizza
especially takeout.
How about popcorn?
Popcorn. Extra butter though.
You guys ready to move on?
Yes,
Any
we're
questions
good.
again? Please
It's
let
good
us
wine.
know.
Good
All
wine.
right. All right, we're here for the juggernaut. That's a note to you, Masi. For one that you've been waiting for, the Bourbon Barrel Zinfandel. This is the second generation of this wine that we produced. And again, this is part of the July shipment exclusive to Wine Club members this month. But all of you that are listening that aren't Wine Club members yet, that we will have some of this available after July. And we should have it for a little while. We made a lot of this one because everybody likes it.
The staff calls it BBZ.
BBZ.
This is definitely a crowd favorite.
It's getting a cult following.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Gus, talk to us. How'd this come about?
What is this?
It landed on your doorstep one morning, and
Exactly.
3 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So what you do is you make a Zinfandel, and then after it's made, then you actually put it in oak barrels that are bourbon barrel have had bourbon in them. So there are. How's that done? Well, it's there's wine barrel or bourbon just barrel companies.
Coopers?
It'll come to me. Anyways, what they do is they actually buy used barrels from different companies, wineries, breweries, and spirits. And what you do is brokers, exactly, wine barrel brokers. And what you do then is you negotiate with them where they'll put the wine in those barrels for a certain length of time. So it's kind of a rental thing. So you got to find these. You got to get the space. There's a lot of logistics going on here. But once the wine is made, then it goes into these barrels for a certain length of time before bottling and extracted. So this spent some time in bourbon barrel. The bourbon on this one is not as intense as the previous one, but it's there. And the structure of the Zinfandel really shows up, and you definitely get a little bit of that bourbon on the finish. And so this is the bourbon barrel Zin.
And I would say this would be between a condiment wine and a cocktail wine. This is a cocktail wine.
Yeah, yeah.
This might overpower most foods, except if it has some grill marks on it.
Yeah, I think this would pair perfectly with a shot of whiskey.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Right.
Or, tri-tip,
Yeah,
filet.
big steaks, yeah.
Something that can hold up to this meatiness here.
I use that too. But for this one, to pair with like a red meat, I ask the guest always do minimal marinating on the meat. Don't throw a bunch of stuff on there. Maybe it's like
Doesn't
salt,
overpower the
so it doesn't
wine.
overpower, so the food can complement, and they can complement each other instead of taking over the flavors. So I like this one.
All right, so and this one is definitely, like to their point, a powerhouse wine. So that's why we call it a cocktail wine. It has a lot going on. It has the whiskey, the tannins, the sweet. It's not sweet, but it has a lot of fruit to it. What do you, Nick? Somebody asked, what are you most looking forward to this year? Like with everything going on, what are you looking forward to?
For the 2020 vintage?
This is in general for the winery.
Yeah.
This is a challenge because 2020, it's our 20th anniversary. It's a big
It's a
deal.
big
So
deal.
we had all these parties slated, concerts. We had all kinds of big events, and all of a sudden, COVID hits, and we're like, oh my gosh. So for me, what I'd look forward to is ending the whole COVID
Yeah, getting
thing,
out of
right?
this
Jeez.
stuff.
Yeah, right. But it just kind of took the air out of that whole 20th anniversary. But what we're doing is we're just shifting and we're adjusting. We're doing smaller events, social distancing, things like that. But I'm looking forward to having a party, having people, having gatherings, having all the wine club, doing a barbecue, things like that. I hope we can do that in 2020 based on recent numbers. I doubt that will happen in 2020. But for me, it's 20 years in business. I look at that logo back here. That's amazing. Most businesses don't make it 2 or 3 years. To go 20, that's something to celebrate. And our families actually stayed together through those years too. We've had our conflict, and I kind of note that in the book a little bit. But that's pretty phenomenal. So we want to celebrate that, but we're going to celebrate that in a different way, obviously.
You know what I look forward to? 2021, and we're gonna knock the socks off every event that we've ever had, and just go berserk.
What about for Gus?
Yeah.
Harvest.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, it's
How's
So,
it looking?
2020 is very similar to last year, 2019, as far as the volume of grapes, the tonnage of grapes up there. Although the weather is a little bit more cooperative, what I'm actually looking forward to this year is the possibility of doing a lot of dessert wines, late harvest wines. If this type of weather continues and the vineyard holds up, which I think it will, I would love to make a late harvest petite, late harvest zin.
Oh, that petite is awesome.
We've done them in the past that just were incredible. This year is shaping up to do that, so I'm actually looking forward to that. I mean, if it holds up, the fruit holds up, I'm making a late harvest petite, and that'll knock your socks off.
You get your teeth all purple. That's
Oh,
perfect.
but
That's
I
a
like
good
that.
day.
Yeah.
I like
Good
showing up,
day.
driving and
Yeah.
having that on.
Purple
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a big harvest, like last year, and I think with this weather, I think there's a good possibility of getting more deeper fruit and perhaps making some late harvest wine.
When do you guys plan on starting?
Looks like a month from now. We're probably looking at about after August 15th to actually start picking grapes.
That's
So,
great.
so that's what it looks like right now. We're getting close to veraison, which is the time when the green grapes actually pick up their color, they increase in size, and they start getting tender to the touch. And when that happens, we know that we're about 2 to 3 weeks from harvest. So we're out there every morning looking at the grapes to see where we're at, and we're getting very close to that magical time of veraison. So it's very close. I think about another 4 to 5 weeks, and we will be in harvest.
Great time to come out.
Yeah.
Great time to come
Beautiful.
out.
I'm sure, Mossy, you hear this in the tasting room a lot, but I always hear, especially from the old time, the long time wine club members, is that our wines are getting better and better every single year. And it used to be, Mick could attest to this, it's not a knock on the winery, but it was at one time it was hit and miss.
Yeah.
And now every year, in the 7 years I've been here, I've seen it. It's been better and better. And there's not one wine that we've launched in the last year or two. So I'm so excited that
Well,
this harvest
it
is-
actually starts out in the vineyard,
Yeah.
and
Great.
Greg's been doing a very good job.
Yeah, so somebody asked about Zinfandel as a grape, and I know Mick and Gus and, I can talk about this. Does Zinfandel typically have higher alcohol? And the answer is yes, but I'll let these two explain why.
Right. I'll do my best. It depends on what you're trying to do as a winemaker. So if we're making a dry red wine, a Zinfandel, what we do is we leave the grapes on the vine to a certain ripeness. And the riper the grape is, the more sugar you have. And the more sugar you have, the more potential of higher alcohol you can have. So by leaving the grapes on the vine longer into the season, not only do the sugars go high, but the fruitiness, the intense jammy character is there as well. So some winemakers like that in Zinfandel, and they tend to leave the Zinfandel on the vine longer than normal to get deeper colors and that more fruity, jammy character. But the end result is that you'll have higher sugar. So when you ferment the sugar out of the wine, making it dry, you tend to have higher alcohol as a result. You can make lower alcohol Zinfandels, but they tend not to have that jammy, extracted fruit character.
You know, quick little backstory. When we were first starting at the winery, we didn't have our own vineyard crew. We had to hire an outside vineyard company to manage our vines. And that company was managing a bunch of different vines. And when it comes time to harvest the Zinfandel one year, it has a certain amount of bricks you have to pick it at. Typically, it's
The sugar level.
the sugar level, like Fahrenheit or bricks, is the sugar level in fruit. I pick at 23, 24 degrees bricks. And what happened is we were ready to pick, and the vineyard manager said, "I'm sorry, my crew they're busy, we can't come over." So now it goes 24 degrees bricks, 25, 26. We're thinking we're going to lose the harvest. Sorry, I can't make it, my crew's busy. We're kind of the low man on the totem pole. Then all of a sudden, 26, 27 degrees bricks. Finally, the crew shows up. They pick these things. They've been there, the Zinfandel, long hang time, and it fermented out to just under 17% alcohol.
Jeez. Which is where this
Yeah.
Bourbon Barrel Zin is.
Oh,
at, yeah.
this is a monster. So we that was unintentional, but what happened is that became one of our best-selling Zinfandels. We stored it in tank number 15, and that's where we got tank 15 Zin.
I've heard about
A new
this.
wine
Yeah,
coming
it was-
soon.
I've heard
Yeah,
about
so
this.
from then on, we decided to do more hang time, higher bricks, higher alcohol, because the Zinfandel grape, I think, can handle that.
Yeah.
And so far, that's been what we've done.
With weather like this, the problem with Zinfandel is it's thin-skinned.
Yeah.
So if it's extremely hot or humid at harvest time, the skin split and you can lose your crops. So you got to bring them in before that happens.
And just tight clusters, too.
They're very tight, so you got to be very careful. But if it really shows well and you pick later, yeah, you can do something like that.
So Mossy, as far as alcohol level, what's the one question you get the most at the bar?
God, I hate this. What's got the highest alcohol?
Yeah, that's
That's
probably
what
the
they
one
want.
question that a lot of people ask.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for high alcohol, Zinfandel, and specifically this Bourbon Barrel Zin, one thing I just want to include in that is that the clusters of Zinfandel are large and they ripen unevenly.
Mm-hmm.
So to get the whole cluster where the trailing clusters are ripening slower, ripen enough, that means the ones that are ahead of the pack are super ripe.
Yeah, raisiny almost.
Raisiny almost, and those translate into a lot of sugar, which translate into a higher alcohol. So that's why Zinfandel does that too.
So Masi, you should ask, are you a beer drinker? Don't worry, this is twice the alcohol that you're accustomed to. End of story.
Here's an Uber number, and here's the Bourbon Barrel Zin. Yeah.
It's more like, hey, just drink this. It's fine.
It's over twice what
Don't you
you're
know, I
accustomed
gotta try
to if
this.
you're a beer drinker.
All right.
And if you want to test the alcohol level, you swirl the wine and see the legs here. And the tighter these legs, or waterfall, or tears as they call it, the more alcohol. And this is, my gosh, this is just saying alcohol.
And you can't taste it. Sometimes you can taste the astringency of alcohol in high alcohol wines, but because this has so much going on with the fruit and the oak and the whiskey, I mean, it just covers all that up, so you can't even taste it. It's 16.4 or something alcohol level.
Yeah, it's got a little backbone to it.
Alcohol, yeah. For all you quarantine folks out there.
Right.
All right, next one.
So we have gone through the July shipment and our Cabernet Rosé, but we're gonna revisit one that we did on our last virtual tasting because it releases. We did a soft release of it last week, but it's gonna officially release on Friday, which is our new Reserve Cabernet. So you guys ready for that?
Oh, I love our reserve cabs.
And
The king
this,
of reds and the red of kings.
And this is a note to you, Mick. Finally got your wish, and I'm so glad you did. We finally extended the labels. The labels look different, and they look amazing. So the reserve wines that you see that are coming out this year just really popped, and it looks really good.
A nice job to Wendy in marketing for doing the label design.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I'm right here.
Yep. This was fun.
This is fun. I told you it was
It's
gonna be
fun,
fun.
whether it's virtual or not.
This is fun. We can do this every day if you want. You're the boss. Okay, so 2018 Cabernet Sauvignon. All right, guys, take it over.
No, I haven't had this one yet.
Or have I?
Yeah.
Recently.
It's kind of fun. Winemaker's perspective is that you taste the wine along the way, and when it's a grape, when it comes in, when you crush it and it's fermenting, and then you taste it again when it goes in the barrels, and while it's aging in the barrel, you taste it along the way, and in your mind and in your notes, you write down these little things that you think about, and some of the things like, hey, I get this fruit, maybe if I blend this into it, this will pop out. So as the wine develops from the fermentation stage all the way to just prior to bottling, you're always constantly looking at what's the potential of the wine, what can I do to bring out the highlights that are there. And it's just always amazing to me to see the transformation of the wine from the very beginning to bottling. And with some years of experience and note taking, what you're doing then is you're trying to forecast the future. Where will this wine eventually go to? And what structure and what way should I manipulate the wine so that 4 months, 6 months, 2 years down the line, it'll get to where I want. And sometimes that happens, and when it does, you feel really good. And other times when it doesn't quite happen, you think, okay, maybe I didn't, what do I need to do to learn this craft a little bit better? So I haven't had this in a while, so just smelling it and tasting it just brings me back to those times when I was putting this wine together and trying to figure out where it's going to go. So what do you guys think?
Did anybody get a little choked up there? That was kind of
crazy.
I'm thinking about, as you're talking, I'm thinking about raising a kid.
Yeah, that was. I got a little
So,
teary-eyed.
I have a
there, guys.
15-year-old daughter in high school who will soon be in college, and you think about
She's
harvest.
driving now, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Harvest would be birth, so to speak,
Right.
right? And then
Yeah.
you raise and mature this wine, so to speak, your child, and then you release it into the world.
Right.
And we're at the release party here.
We're at the release party. So the fruit's there. It's a little closed. It's going to open up. The tannic structure is really there. It's quite firm. It's starting to integrate. I think this will really start showcasing and seeing itself probably in 4 to 5 months. So this is on the young side. The tannins are all on the firm side. But I think once they do, then you'll really get the flavor and the profile. So what I talk about in class, I teach class, is if you get the two hands. If one hand is the flavor and one's the tannin, initially when you taste the wine that are young, the tannins are the first things that you get. And then the fruit comes afterwards. As it ages, what happens is the tannins spread out and they become thinner. Same with the fruit. And what happens then is the tannins then drop down and the fruit then comes up. And the time when they're kind of intermeshed like this is where it's really ideal. So when you taste the wine, you get the fruitiness. Then the structure of the tannin comes in there, which takes the flavor of the wine to a distant point. It doesn't go short, but it goes far. What I'm trying with this wine is two closed elements, the fruit and the tannin. And I think they're in that process where the tannin is still prominent, but it's going to drop and it's going to rise up. So some wines are designed to be to age out a little bit, and others are not. This definitely is one that will age out a little bit, and I think you will sing its praises in at least 4 to 5 months.
I got teary-eyed again. One thing that the whole the COVID-19 and us slowing down business here at the winery, one of the blessings in disguise that there was one is that because of supply and demand, we were always kind of on the 8 ball to really release our wines. And in my opinion, sometimes they hit their peak a little further out than we expected. Now we're able to slow things down and release them a little later, which gives you optimal taste closer to when they're released. And that's really cool. I think this one, I was sitting down with Bill when we were talking about this wine in my office, and I'm like, I'm gonna hold on to the cab a little bit. I think it takes a little more time. And he's like, it's ready to go. And then a week later, it just was ready to go. It just developed that fast, and it was really good. And so I think this is gonna taste so good when you come and pick it up this weekend or whenever you get it. It's just ready to go. It's good.
Or buy a second bottle and store it.
There you
Prepare
go.
it,
And it can store because the tannins are so good on this.
This wine is going to be awesome. So
You see, you see the
I'm just,
structure.
I mean, I've had
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 sips just to get an idea of what it's going to taste like in the future. But
Right.
I mean, some people come in and they just want this chalky, tannic wine. And I'm over here. I was looking at you. I almost wanted to like mouth to you. Like I'm getting thirsty. Just like sitting on this. But this is going to be. It might be one of the highest tannins of any wine we have right now.
At this point, yeah, I agree. But you know, when you're looking at the wines, this one's designed for a little bit more time. But once it hits its pace, boy, it's kind of fun. You know, when we bottle wine and we release it, and I'll go into the tasting room and see what's hot selling, right? And you can see, well, you know, this wine's not selling so good. All of a sudden, oh my God,
It's like a
everyone loves
bell-shaped
it.
curve,
Yeah. So how long since we released it? Yeah, I can see that curve. This is going to do the same.
And that
thing.
bell-shaped curve, and that's my point, that the bell-shaped curve is shifted in our favor because we're not fully open, that we're able to release that peak hits sooner.
This is going to be really nice.
But it tastes good now. And the Petit Syrah's like that too, that we released
Oh,
recently.
that's going to be really good.
Yeah.
It is really good.
Yeah.
There's also the back side of the bell curve where it kind of falls away over time. We haven't had that problem because we sell out. Yeah.
So somebody asked about seeing the bottle closer up. Is that the Cabernet? Gus is going to bring it to you.
Gotta do both. Yeah.
Is that too close? You have 2 cameras over there. So again, the label looks super cool. I love the real description on the back. It really makes it look great. And I think Cabernet Sauvignon is the most popular grape in the world, the best known grape in the world. We actually have how many Cabernets? Probably 5 or 6 different versions of Cabernet Sauvignon here. But it's a crowd pleaser for a reason, and I think this wine hits every note. It's smooth. It's easy to drink. It's easy to pair. It's easy to kind of connect with, and it just does it.
And the fun thing with Wilson Creek Winery is that the Cabernet is the wine that we're really having fun with. Yeah. So here's a grape that has so much to offer, and we focus on one small thing of it, and we made the white Cabernet. We focus another thing on that, and we've made the rosé. We focus on different parts of that grape and its potential, and we've made a wine that highlights that focal point, which is really kind of cool. Yeah. And that's where we're looking at that, just taking that one grape and looking at the different variations of it, and that's fun. Then our mainstay, like Petit Syrah, well, that's it, and here we are, and we're trying to make something consistent, strong, and really focus on what Temecula is and how it reflects in our wine. Mm-hmm. When people come and visit Temecula, when they try the wine, they really get the essence of what this valley is all about by having that wine. It's the sunshine, the soil, the people who are selling you that wine. That experience of Temecula is there in that wine, which is very, very important. So grapes like Petit Syrah, that's what we do with that one. That's our ambassador wine to really showcase that what we can do and what Temecula is all about.
That's a great, well put.
And the Cabernet vines are the ones you see right by the restaurant. They're the ones right outside.
Yeah, and you can walk through them and see how they're growing. Right now is the perfect time to see them, right?
Planted in 1969, 1970, and then some others planted just recently, maybe 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Up on the hill.
Right. And if you look at the lineup here, if you're able to see it, I mean, you have 2 completely different expressions of the same grape. You have now our dry rosé and our amazing reserve Cabernet. And Cabernet grows all over the world. Not every grape can do that. And it tastes different in different climates, different places. So you get these 2 awesome versions of what Temecula can do with a Cabernet grape.
And everybody tries. I mean, there are a lot of wineries out here, all over the world, they try to do their own variations of Cabernet Sauvignon. Some stick, some don't. And I mean, we have like you said, sparkling, a rosé, a white, dry
We do.
red, 2 reds.
Right.
And Ryan, what's the price point on this?
This is $64.99.
Which I love, because for those who've traveled up to other wine regions,
Yeah.
Napa, Sonoma, you Cabernet Sauvignon up there, you're going to be over 100.
Yeah.
And you taste them side by side. I love a Napa Cab, I love a Sonoma Cab, Paso Cabs are great, but the value of a Temecula Cabernet is amazing.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It definitely stands up to those in my
Yep.
opinion. So.
And the award show.
Yeah, definitely. All right, folks. So we've gone through all the wines. We've done doing our duty here and drank a lot of wine. So thank you for bearing with us through this. If you have any questions, you could definitely hit us up at info@wilsoncreekwinery.com. A couple of things I just want to include. If we didn't say it already, the tasting room and the grounds are still open. I know it's been really confusing with everything changing every day. We are, however, doing everything outside. Thankfully, it cooled down since the triple digits last weekend, but we're doing tasting outside. We have the bar and grill outside. Our restaurant, which has always been outside, is outside, and everything is still going on. So please come see us. Bring your smiles and your positive energy and some patience, because we're doing everything we can to go along with everything that needs to be done right now. And also, please, we ask for your patience as you're calling in. Because of all these questions and everything changing so rapidly, we have a lot of you calling in, which we love, but our phones are really tied up almost all day, every day. And we just ask for your patience. We will get back to you, and we do love you, and we do want to connect with you, but we've had challenges just because of everything changing so much. So please bear with us. We're doing everything we can, and we'd love to see you. Please get our new wines and some of our old favorites, and join us next time for the next virtual tasting, which is on August 13th at 5 o'clock. So August 13th, put that in your calendars, and we'll have some new great wines for you to drink with us. All right.
Cheers.
All right. So cheers, everybody. Thank you, and stay healthy and happy and safe.
See you guys soon.
All right.